Well, hi there guys, and welcome to another video. So, guys, I'm very sorry it's been such a long time since my last video, but my wife, hello wife,
Hello husband,
and I have been very busy playing the computer game Satisfactory by Coffee Stain, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, it is. They made Goat Simulator, great game. Anyway, I thought to celebrate having a video on YouTube again, it should be about Satisfactory.
Absolutely, it has been what you've been spending most of your time on.
Yes.
So,
Let's switch to the game, shall we?
let's
Switch to the game. Right, well, here we have a loading screen for the game. How many hours have you got on your Steam of playing this game now?
I only have about 60 hours.
60 hours, but I've got like triple that, haven't I?
You too.
Yeah, because I like to randomly wander about and do random stuff while we're not progressing the main game
Yes.
progression.
The main game progression, yeah.
The MGP. Okay, so fix it, Hudos. Welcome back, Starfish. Oh, that's you.
That's me.
That's you. Well, here we are. Here's the game. We have loaded up, and we are by a couple of miners. So I should probably start by saying the game is all about mining resources and using them to do stuff. And these buildings are kind of typical of what you would kind of have at the start. Well, not quite at the start, you get personal miners at the start. But anyway, these buildings, for example, are miners, and they are Mark II miners, I think, and you can see there's stuff flowing out of them. So kind of going back to the start of the game. So at the start of the game, you're in an area, aren't you?
Right, you
Like
start in a big grassy
something
area.
a bit akin to this, like an open, grassy region, maybe. I've jumped down from here. I have no idea how to
really
get
unwise.
back up. But it's okay. I can always get back up by demonstrating part of the game that I wasn't ever planning to demonstrate as part of this. But anyway, so you get to build stuff. You can. It feels a little bit like it's like nanotech or something. You have this building interface, and you can in the real space of the world, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna choose a schematic of a building I want to build, and I'm gonna build it here. And it tells you like how many resources you're going to use to build it, and it feels like it's probably nanotech or something, because it just kind of like instantly builds. And I don't know, I'm not sure it's ever really explained, but yeah, so you just kind of
watch out.
build stuff. And there's
Bad guys.
There's a bad guy there who's now decided to attack me. There's wildlife, and it's all really angry and doesn't want you here. So anyway, so you start out, you have this like menus, and you decide stuff you want to build. So like, say I want to build a constructor, and you decide where you want to put it, and you have this blueprint, and like it's got an input and an output, and then if you've got enough materials, and there it's like, showing you need 2 of these and 8 of those, and you click and bang, there you go, you've built a constructor. And you can click on this, and you can see, oh, what can I build in there? Oh, I want iron rods. And then it's like, okay, so this requires inputs of iron ingots, and it will output iron rods at a rate. And anyway, and then these like input and output vents you attach conveyor belts to, and you deliver materials. And that's pretty much the gist of. That's kind of the entire game in a nutshell.
Basically.
You gain resources, you build stuff with resources, you link things up with things, and you use these things to do things. So that's about the end of the video, right?
It could be.
Okay, there's more to it than that.
There's a little bit more to it.
There's a little bit more to it than that.
I want to know who decided that it was going to be called an ingot, not an ingot.
Ingot.
Are you making fun of me?
A little bit. Ingo.
Inga.
So it's kind of like early in the morning, and I think the sun is behind this great big ridge here, so it's kind of dark in this area, but you can see the sun is kind of coming down over there. But everything you see here that looks kind of man-made is all stuff that we have built, you know, these foundations and ramps and what are those things called? Barriers?
Railings, maybe?
Railings, yeah. And all of these, like, conveyor belts. You know, you can see that there were the two miners I showed you mining quartz, coming into a combining unit that's putting them onto another conveyor belt. There's another conveyor belt that goes up here and up this hill that's mining bauxite. And, yeah, you just build stuff. And, you know, I mean, you can see from these examples that this conveyor belt goes all the way up around here. You can see I put some foundations down and kind of goes around here and loops around here and goes all the way over here. And yeah, you know, you build. I like that. Do I not?
You do like building the long conveyor.
I love long conveyor belts. Let me open the map. So, like, the game has a map, and you can see where we are on the map, and like our base is kind of down here. But honestly, this map, what we have uncovered here, like if I center the map around there, then there is all this area up here that there is the undiscovered map that we've not even seen. We've uncovered like a quarter of the map or something.
Yeah, maybe a third.
Maybe a third.
Maybe a third.
The game is huge.
It is quite large. Big map, big world.
It's a big map. Right. So these materials, for example, that we are mining here, we have got going back to our base on these lovely conveyor belts. So let's go back to our base. Later in the game, this is not something you get near the start, but I mean, we've good 100 hours in now, so you get these tubes that are called hypertubes, and these are for like transporting people. So I'm going to jump into one of these, and you can explain to people what's going on here.
Scientifically, or just?
I don't know.
Well, you're being sucked through a tube, like a, what do they call them, pneumatic tubes?
Yeah, it is air is the thing pushing you through this tube.
So they used to have these at banks in the States. You would drive up to the bank and put your check in the tube, and it would suck it up and wind up.
Yeah, but
the bankers.
Now it's people. We are flying through this tube.
It's a big boy.
Towards our beast.
This was one of my favorite additions to the game when we got it.
Look, here's that conveyor belt that started up there with the bauxite and crystal stuff, quartz stuff. Crystal quartz stuff. That's travelled for many hours. Some
giant thing.
fauna. Oh look, there's our East Ridge operation there, and over to the right is our base. Oh, wow. That's all quite jarring, but
yeah, moving the camera a bit fast.
Here we are. So we've come out the end of the hypertube, and we're now back at the main base, which, as you can see, is something we have been building for a while. Look, there's another bit of fauna flying overhead.
Yeah.
Up over our big walkway up there.
We haven't tried shooting at that yet, have we?
No, that wouldn't be very friendly. We're friendly towards the local wildlife.
Right. Except if they try to.
Yeah. They do try to attack us sometimes. So, when you start out in the game, you start out with one thing, which is this building here, which you get the materials to build this, and it's not quite that good when it starts. What's it called?
The hub.
The hub. And in the hub, you get your initial crafting station, which is this, and your objectives terminal, and your first storage box, and you can never delete any of these, like the storage box we've still got stuff in, but yeah, the hub.
The hub.
And the crafting bench, you kind of like open up the crafting bench and you've got a bunch of recipes. Again, these recipes have expanded over time, but this is just like stuff you can manually build. You can be like, okay, I want to build some rebar, and I make that out of iron rods, and I can just like click the craft button and okay, I'm producing rebar now. But the point of the game is really kind of automating, right?
It is. If you find that you're spending too long holding your mouse button down to build something, it probably means you should be automating it.
You should be automating it. And so you get these machines, like I said, the mining machines. If we go over here, so this is one of the starting locations. So it's quite an easy starting location in that you start by like a couple of iron deposits. And so we built like these iron miners, and now these iron ore are going on these conveyors into these machines that smelt. So they take iron ore and they produce iron ingots, and then we have our iron ingots coming out of those conveyor belts and going into a container, as you can see, full of iron ingots. And then on like the other sides of these containers we have these constructors that take iron ingots and turn them into iron plates, and then this one over here is turning it into like iron rods. And then that's pretty much the gist of the game. You are making things and moving things.
Yeah.
And then like after constructors you get, assemblers?
Yeah, assemblers and then manufacturers.
Assemblers and manufacturers. Anyway, the general gist is you take one or more inputs and turn them into outputs and recipes. Oh look, this person. I think that's me when I saved.
Yeah.
So there's multiplayer. That's probably another big point.
Yeah, true.
Everyone can collaborate. So you and me and my favourite brother-in-law have been playing. And for some reason, when you log out, your character stays in the game.
Yeah, it's a weird choice. If it is indeed a choice.
Yeah.
It is an early access, which you do notice from time to time, but it's not, it's a pretty polished early access, I would say.
Yeah, that's true to say. So you build the hub. This terminal in the hub then gives you milestones. So the master, we're up to like our tier 5. We're on the final one of the tier 5 milestones. But if you look back to earlier milestones like tier 1, tier 0 or something, you can click on one of these and you can be like, okay. So tier 0 hub upgrade 1 gave us a workshop to build stuff and a portable miner and some extra inventory slots, and then tier 2 gave us power lines, smelters, copper ingots, wire, and now we're up to like tier 6 where we're like jetpack is one of the things we'll be unlocking soon, and it all builds on previous stuff and gets more and more challenging. And then you also have materials research, so you get to build this eventually. Oh, we've just recently finished one, apparently. And then materials research is more about you going out and finding things, and like our next materials research is a programmable splitter, which will take 8 minutes to research, and we have to feed in 50 supercomputers and 50 heavy modular. But anyway, so there's that. But also like the milestones, so these generally like unlock recipes. So when we were looking before in the buildings that we can build in here, miners, smelters, foundries, manufacturers, stuff like that, these are unlocked by hitting milestones, but the milestones are also capped. So for example, at the moment tier 7 and 8 are locked because we have to do another thing to unlock them. And that's the space elevator, which is the cool thing over here. That this little locking thing. So this doodad comes down from space, and then this locking thing hooks onto it. And the space elevator is basically you supplying materials for presumably some project that's going on up in space, and you give those materials, and when you send them up, it unlocks tiers that you can then do in your hub. So it's very, very diverse. You have to just make stuff, and that lets you make more stuff, and so on.
So you've talked a lot about conveyor belts, but there are other resources.
Oh, are there?
There are other resources.
I wouldn't know, because I just love building conveyor belts.
There are pipes. You also love building pipes.
I do love pipes, yes.
Show some pipes.
Okay. Well, the best place to show pipes is probably our rig, isn't it, at the other location. So one thing you'll have noticed that there's loads of conveyor belts. We've got conveyor belts moving all sorts of gubbins. Let me just go up to like our East Ridge project via one of our hypertubes, and you can see there's a lot of conveyor belts going along that thing that we built up there between the main base and the East Ridge project. So over at the East Ridge project, you will see like we've got these manufacturers that take 4 inputs, and you can see resources coming down on these conveyor belts. I mean, this one, for example, is building heavy modular frames out of stuff, and there's screws coming in, and yeah, so conveyor belts are moving stuff around. But yeah, like some of these conveyor belts, I mean, that one that you saw from way out in the north where we're bringing quartz and bauxite, we have conveyor belts coming in from everywhere. And like this conveyor belt here, you can see there are barrels on that conveyor belt. Well, that's because there was a resource that was far away that we wanted to bring in on the conveyor belt. But pipes, yeah. Should I drive out there?
Drive out there.
I'm going to drive out there. So you get vehicles. Tell people about vehicles. Vehicles are great.
Vehicles get you stuck in things if you have a poor connection. No, they go at speed and they get you places faster. They can climb.
They do.
And they take any type of fuel.
Yes, this vehicle we're currently running from coal because we're really old school. But they will take. You can even run them off biomass if you really want. Yeah. But yeah, they will take proper fuel or biomass, coal, whatever. Yeah, and this is quite a drive. We should probably just time lapse through this bit, shouldn't we?
Sure.
Okay, well, let's start driving. So yeah, this is the Explorer. Hopefully I'll make it out to where we're going without crashing horrifically. But yeah, it goes fairly fast, and it's a buggy, and it's exciting. It doesn't have a horn, so sorry for people who only like games where you can drive vehicles with horns. You know who you are. But yeah, you can drive to places. Let's just time lapse this, shall we?
Let's.
So one thing this game has, because all games have to have it now, is biomes. And we are now traversing a new biome. So suddenly, it's necessary for the colour of the sky to change slightly and the colour of the ground to change slightly, and for everyone to believe that we are in a fundamentally different place than we were before. But you can see the conveyor belt on my left. That's the conveyor that we saw back at the base, continuing to transport those purple barrels and other things. But yes, this is like a remote operation. I mean, you can see the conveyor belt coming down. You can see that there's power lines coming down. We basically just extended our operation out here. So it's all about resources and bringing resources in. Because the map is so gargantuan, some resources are not accessible near your starting locations. There's 4 starting locations you can choose, and they have varying levels of difficulty. We chose the easiest one, obviously. But one of the main resources later in the game is oil, and if you choose the easiest starting location, there is no oil anywhere nearby at all. So we went off on a little jaunt to find some oil. You'll notice there's not really much by way of hostile life out here. There are hostiles in the game, which I will come on to later, but yeah, we had to fight a lot of stuff to get out of here. Again, as you discover new technologies, you get better things to fight stuff with. So here we are, out at our source of oil. There's a few sources of oil nearby, but we built this first oil extraction device. Again, you can click on it and you can see, okay, this is an oil extractor. It's producing an amount of oil per minute. It's mostly idle because we have more oil than we know what to do with right now, but here's what you were alluding to. Pipes! Pipes are a bit more complicated, aren't they?
I mean, yes, they have vertical limits to the flow rate, I suppose, and you can put pumps on them which increase the vertical pump rate.
So this is our rig. This is our like an oil rig. So we have these containers which are full of crude oil, lots of crude oil. And yeah, we have pipes and jointed pipes and more oil. And ultimately, what we're doing here is we're taking this oil and pushing it into 2 of these refinery machines. So, like, refinery machine number 1 is taking oil, turning it into plastic with a heavy residue byproduct, and refinery number 2 is taking oil and turning it into rubber with a heavy residue byproduct. And then on the other side we have coming out of these, so we have these outputs here. So like this one is producing the rubber, and there's the rubber going across the conveyor belt, and here's the one producing the plastics, and then occasionally you will see a plastic come out of here and go out this lift and across here and come down this lift and across this conveyor into here. And then the byproducts, these tubes, is the heavy residue which goes into these, and you can see heavy residue in these, and we've got like 4 of them full of heavy residue because I kind of go a bit overkill sometimes. Yeah, and we've then got, you saw the conveyor, we've got stuff coming out. So like this is a constructor that produces canisters, and then this is taking the canisters and the heavy residue and putting them into these lovely purple barrels. And yeah, then we have the plastics and the rubbers and the purple barrels going into a combiner here, and then they all spunk it out onto this conveyor belt, which takes these barrels and plastics and rubber and stuff. And I don't know why I'm stood on the conveyor belt. Whoops. I've fallen in the water. As with all games, of course, falling in the water is a pain in the arse because swimming is terrible. But yeah, there's this conveyor belt coming out from the rig that is delivering our heavy residue barrels and our plastic and our rubber to the other side of the map in this rig, which is made of a glass frame. Yeah, because that's me. Is that kind of pipes? And
That is pipes.
that is pipes.
That's pipes.
So yeah, so you have various things, some of which are solids and are moved by conveyor belts, some of which are liquids and are moved by pipes, and you move them around and you take them to places and you turn them into other things.
You can also move water.
Water, yeah.
That was our first foray into pipes, and we did not really know what we were doing at the time.
We did not really know what we were doing. We were quite noobish about it. Yes.
Oh.
Right, we should drive back to the base now and examine some other elements of what's going on. Do you think we should time lapse this as well?
Sure.
Because it's a bit boring, isn't it? So one thing that's probably worth mentioning, as you can see here on our way back, is this. This is what's called a crash site. And as you can see, there are just bits of our technology on the ground here. So, again, maybe I just haven't read about it, or maybe they haven't written any backstory yet, but when you first start the game, you come down in a pod from orbit, and I think the idea is that like the company that is deciding to exploit this world sends a large number of people down in the knowledge that only a small number will make it. And so you find all of these crash sites, all the pods that failed to successfully land, and presumably the various unfortunate people who didn't do as well as you did. And you can unlock those and stuff. We just run out of coal, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've run out of coal. So these vehicles, once they get through their fuel, we are just kind of coasting now and slowing down. So yeah, ultimately you have to get out of your vehicle and go around to the back and open up the little thingy and jam a bit more coal in the engine. Anyway, yeah, crash sites.
Yeah, so apparently you are capable of scanning them and getting some extra recipes from them. So we'll actually have to figure that out.
Yeah, we've never actually bothered to do anything with crash sites yet and unlock new recipes.
Apparently there are a lot of them. For
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
There are also slugs, power slugs.
Oh, power slugs, that's another thing.
Yeah, so there's these green, yellow, and purple, I believe.
Yeah.
Different tiers of slug, I suppose. You can pick them up. Ooh, puffer. And they can be made into power cells that can be used to overclock your machines, right?
Because, like all good games and all good equipment, overclocking is a big thing. Well, we're back at the base now. I mean, here's an example of something we've done with liquids. So we chip in all of those barrels from the remote oil rig type site. We actually have all of those eventually make their way up to this machine here, which unboxes our packaged heavy oil and turns it back into a liquid again. And that liquid then goes via this container, because we're all about the containers. So this contains heavy oil residue, and that container then goes down along this pipe over to this machine here, which turns heavy oil residue into fuel. And then we have our container of fuel here, and then the fuel runs these generator thingamies, which take an input of fuel and produce power. But yeah, like I say, overclocking, so you can plug power shards into a machine, and then this lets you tweak this overclock thing. If you underclock, then you significantly reduce the power consumption and slightly reduce the production output. If you overclock, you increase the production output, but you massively increase the power and resource consumption.
Yeah.
So yeah, swings and roundabouts, mate. That's pretty much what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. I suppose we're talking about power. We haven't mentioned power yet, have we? So you might have seen, as we've been wandering around, these power poles and power lines. So pretty much everything needs power. Conveyors and pipes don't need power. I don't know how the conveyors work, but they just...
No, they just work.
They just work. They move stuff along them whether there's power or not. But yeah, pretty much all equipment needs power. I mean, you can see our little power house in the middle of the base here, which is just like a bunch of power lines distributing power. Yeah, so everything uses an amount of power, and then you have generators that generate power. So there's those fuel generators. The hub actually starts you off with these two things here, which are biomass generators. So you can bosh leaves and wood and animal remains and stuff like that into those. And yeah, they all generate power. This is a coal power. So like, for example, the coal power, it takes two inputs. It takes coal as an input and it takes water as an input and produces power. But yeah, ultimately you have to manage the production of power versus the consumption of power. And then eventually you get geothermals, which we built a couple of, that just free power, basically. But they take lots of highly specialised materials to build and lots of research to unlock and that sort of thing. So yeah, power. What other elements are there to this game?
I don't know. I mean, you talk about progression, you talk about power, you talk about pipes and
Resources
conveyors
and conveyors and shit. Yeah, I suppose the only other major part of it is fighting stuff. So once you've built in an area and powered equipment in an area, stuff doesn't really come and bother you. There's like respawn and stuff in this game, so like when you like pick berries or nuts or whatever, they will respawn. Like here's some berries, pale berries, and I can pick that, and I've now picked a pale berry, and that will respawn in due course. like pale berries, for example. If I go into my inventory, I can drag the pale berry that I just picked into a hand slot, and I can switch to it, and I can eat it, and then my health goes back up from eating a pale berry. So those things respawn. I think enemies respawn. But yeah, once you've like colonized and civilized an area, the enemies don't respawn in that area. So, but yeah, the world is quite hostile. There's those beasts you see walking around which are not hostile. There's lizard doggos which are not hostile. But there are, I don't know what they're called, the ones that charge at you. They're not nice. They run at you and headbutt you and injure
Yeah. The number of times I've been stood on the edge of a cliff, looking out over the side, just for the visual sake, and then punching out over the edge is insane.
Yeah, that's not pleasant. Oh, there's Billy. They're friendly. There's the charging things. There's the spitties. They like spit fire at you. The chargers and the spitters come in both like an ordinary and a really nasty flavour, and they take various like amounts of hits to kill, and some of them are like proper nasty, and some of them are not so bad, and so that's the thing.
So you're walking out over this waterfall, basically.
Yeah.
And the reason that you have this free-floating platform out there is why?
Oh, yeah, well, you have how many hours play?
About 60 hours.
And I have how many hours play?
About 150 hours.
Yeah, so I will wake up in the morning and before work be like, what should I do? I'll play some Satisfactory, but obviously it would not be good for me to be progressing the game without you. That would be exclusionary.
Absolutely.
So I tend to embark upon vanity projects, which mostly involves going and building, base foundations out over absurd places and building long pipes and conveyor belts and stuff.
But you built that one for a very specific reason.
Oh yeah, that was for our uranium. So I have a habit of being like, we might need something in the future. At the moment, we don't really use quartz.
No.
We have made a few things out of quartz to unlock stuff, but we're not using it as part of any of our regular production processes. We definitely don't use bauxite.
No.
We don't use uranium.
No.
But occasionally I'll be like, well, I know where I can find these resources. I'm going to plop a miner down and route it back to the base, because why not? Rather like this pipe we're walking along at the moment, which is an oil pipeline that I built, even though we already have all the oil we need to do everything we're doing right now. I was like, I'm going to find another source of oil. And so me being me, I thought, let's find one that's ridiculously far away and build a huge great oil pipeline out to it. So yeah, I do that a lot. I'd be like, wouldn't it be fun to build a pipeline or a conveyor out a long way and bring it all back in. And power, of course, to go with it. And sometimes, But so that one out in the middle of nowhere is for our uranium. I built a mine to mine uranium. And uranium, as many of you will be aware, is radioactive. And we haven't yet got far enough through the game that we've made the research item for like a radiation protective thingy. So I made a bit of a mistake, didn't I, at first?
Yeah, you did.
I didn't really know much about how the radiation mechanic worked in the game, so I built a long conveyor from a cave where I found a uranium deposit. I built a miner back to the base, and I was like, I'll just build a containment unit and we'll just stash a bunch of it until we figure out what to do with it, like I have with the bauxite and the quartz and this sort of stuff. Only to find out that, yes, if you stockpile huge amounts of uranium in a space, there's radiation. So I then have to build a platform out in the middle of nowhere and at distance reconfigure the conveyors to redirect that uranium somewhere that wasn't quite so close to the base, or we would just die.
Yeah.
I'm good, really good at this game.
You are good at this game.
So, anyway, we should probably summarise now, because look, it's night time in the game now, as you can see,
It's been a whole day.
by the fact that the moon is now rising over there in the west, as the moon does, and the shadows are moving so beautifully. Yeah, here's my oil rig out in the middle of nowhere. But yes, the moon rises. Yeah, there's a day-night cycle. It can be quite dark during the night, but it's quite a pretty game, isn't it?
Very pretty game, and who can argue with 4K?
Who can argue with it at 4K? Yeah, sorry about the frame rate. I mean, this is on the 4K projector we're playing this, and this machine does have an SLI configuration, but the two cards are only 1070s, so they're not the most powerful thing for 4K. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, here I am on the map, all the way out here. There is an oil pipeline that goes all the way back to the base for no reason. And then quartz from up here and oil from over here. And, yeah. Anyway, this is Satisfactory. But the question is it worth a buy? I would probably say it is worth a buy based upon the amount of hours I've spent on it.
50 hours in, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to say it's worth a buy.
It is worth a buy. Well, any closing comments? Anything else you'd like to say about this game?
Still in early access.
Still in early access. Oh, it came on Steam on the 8th of June.
Yes, it was on the Epic Store before that.
It was on the Epic Store before that. Came on Steam on the 8th of June. Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of hours sunk into it. I'm sure there will be many, many more.
Yes. Again, I apologise for the lack of videos, but that's what happens when you get a new game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for watching the video. I hope you found it utterly informative and partially interesting. Have you enjoyed having our viewers here?
Absolutely.
Good. Good.
I always enjoy our viewers.
Well, if you have played Satisfactory and you have an opinion about it, I'd like you to comment below. Otherwise, just comment generally. Anything you've thought about this gameplay footage you've seen today. Or just anything, really. Other than that, I don't think I've got very much more to say. Have you got much more to say?
Just one thing.
Okay, what's that?
Goodbye.
Oh yes, goodbye.